18 centuries ago, at the Harzhorn Hill in what is now north-central Germany, hundreds of miles beyond the imperial frontier, a Roman army was attacked by a large warband. No ancient historian records the incident, but thanks to archaeological detective work, the ensuing battle can be reconstructed in remarkable detail. This is the first part of a collaboration with Philaxim Historia, a channel dedicated to Roman military history. My video will trace the mysterious campaign that brought a Roman army so far into Germany and explore the larger questions of how the Romans operated in enemy territory. Philaxim Historia's video will reconstruct the battle at the Harzhorn. The Harzhorn Battlefield was discovered in 2000 when a pair of metal detectorists stumbled upon what turned out to be a hippo sandal, the Roman equivalent of a horseshoe. Years later, one of the detectorists informed the local authorities of this discovery, touching off an investigation that revealed an almost perfectly preserved Roman battlefield. Until the Harzhorn Battlefield came to light, it was assumed that no Roman army had ventured so far northeast after the reign of Augustus, when the disaster in the Teutoburg forest had put an end to Rome's German province. The finds from the battlefield, however, suggested a date around 235, which linked the battle with one of the most colorful episodes in Roman history, the German campaign of Maximinius Thrax. Maximinius Thrax was a formidable figure. If we can believe our sources, he was over 8 feet tall and strong enough to defeat any 7 soldiers in a wrestling match, crush rocks in his fist, or knock down a horse with a casual slap. Though of modest origins, he had risen through the ranks to become an important and popular officer. In 235, Maximinius was at Mogontiacum, modern Mainz, where the reigning emperor, a mild-mannered and rather ineffectual youth named Severus Alexander, had assembled an army to deal with the Alemanni, a confederation of German tribes that had recently staged a massive raid into Roman territory. To avoid the risk and expense of fighting the Alemanni, Alexander attempted to buy off the tribal leaders with subsidies. Enraged by what they saw as an act of cowardice, the soldiers mutinied, proclaimed Maximinius their emperor, and assassinated Alexander. Although it would have been prudent for Maximinius to go to Rome and establish a working relationship with the Senate, his first act was to do what his predecessor had not: march into Germany and meet the barbarians in battle. The army that Severus Alexander had assembled around Mainz seemed more than capable of getting the job done. Many of the troops had come from Syria, where Alexander had been campaigning against the Persians. Among them were units seldom seen in Germany: Armenian archers, North African spearmen, and even mercenary cataphracts from the Persian frontier. We don't know how many legions were involved, but the army included at least part of the 4th Legion, Flavia Felix, which was normally stationed in what is now Serbia, and probably drew heavily on the legions stationed along the Rhine. At the head of this army, Maximinius crossed the Rhine on a pontoon bridge and entered the salient of Roman territory north of the river. A short march past the ruins of towns and villas destroyed by German raiders brought him to the frontier, into the long line of walls and fortresses known as the limes. Like Hadrian's Wall in Britain, the German limes represented both a physical assertion of Roman dominance and an efficient communication system, whose supply depots were now pressed into the service of Maximinius's campaign. At least in theory, Roman authority extended deep into Free Germany. But as soon as Maximinius and his troops passed beyond the trenches and palisades of the limes, they entered a new and hostile world. Maximinius's campaign would last for months and bring his army to the banks of the Elbe. We'll retrace what we know about it in a moment. First, however, I'd like to briefly explore how a Roman army could support itself so deep in enemy territory. Even for a large army, moving through the provinces was a straightforward process. The famous Roman roads, whose primary purpose was to speed troop movements, made marching possible in any weather, and since routes and supplies were arranged months in advance, the soldiers could count on fresh food and good campsites every night. Once they entered enemy territory, however, all bets were off. A Roman army on the march needed water, firewood, and food. In Germany, with its many forests and rivers, water and firewood were abundant. Food, however, could be problematic. Each soldier kept several days of field rations in his pack, usually in the form of the pre-baked hardtack called bucolatum. The main food supplies, sacks of grain, barrels of salt pork, and everything from amphorae of olive oil to wheels of cheese, were carried on ox-drawn wagons in the baggage train. Between the field rations in the men's packs and the supplies in the baggage train, a well-supplied Roman army might have food for 2 or 3 weeks. But as soon as it entered enemy territory, those stocks began to diminish. It was customary for an army to forage, harvesting enemy crops and killing enemy livestock. Foraging, however, could only be supplementary, since it was dangerous, time-consuming, and often, especially in thinly settled Germany, not very productive. Armies were thus dependent on a steady stream of supply trains. For Maximinius' campaign, barges loaded with food were rowed along the Rhine to Mainz, stockpiled at frontier depots, and finally forwarded under heavy guard to the main army, which was driving deeper and deeper into Germany. As Maximinius' army marched north, it was preceded by teams of scouts who probed for signs of the enemy. Behind came the advance units responsible for clearing the path, bridging rivers, and selecting the evening's campsite. If the army followed the normal marching order, the cavalry came first, followed by part of the infantry. The baggage train was in the center, along with the thousands of slaves and attendants who managed the animals and gear. More infantry and a strong rearguard followed behind. For weeks Maximinius advanced, and for weeks the Germans withdrew before him, offering little resistance. The Romans blazed a trail of destruction as they marched, burning fields, slaughtering cattle, destroying villages. The eastern archers proved remarkably effective in skirmishes. But it was only when the Romans reached a marshy region near the river Elbe, a few days' march from the future site of Berlin, that the Germans finally turned and gave battle. After a series of hit-and-run attacks, Maximinius and his men caught up with a large warband on the edge of a swampy lake. In his eagerness to close with them, the emperor spurred his horse into waist-deep water, slashing left and right with his massive sword. Shamed by his courage, the army charged into the water after him. The lake was dyed red with German blood, and the barbarians, we are told, were killed almost to a man. Maximinius had the victory he needed. He sent messengers to the Senate, ordering a huge painting of the battle to be set up in the Roman Forum. And soon, having no reason to linger in Germany, he turned his army back toward the frontier. Since his men had stripped the countryside along their outbound march, he returned by a different route, skirting the edge of the Harz Mountains. It was in this broken landscape of ridges and ravines that Maximinius' army was attacked by a large German force. The ensuing action can be traced in the blisterbolts and hobnails embedded in the clay of the Harzhorn. On what that evidence tells us, and for a reconstruction of the battle itself, check out Philaxim Historia's video, which is linked in the end screen and description. Thanks for watching.